The crucible arena loomed above the volcanic surface of Varduin IV, its steel bones etched with the names of those who had bled for the amusement of others. Lights flared overhead, illuminating the sand-slicked combat pit below, where a lone figure stood motionless, his back straight, one eye veiled beneath a matte black eye patch. John Creed didn't flinch as the jeers echoed from the balconies above. "Send in the fossils! One-eyed Terran? Might as well blindfold him. I've seen training drones aim better." He had heard it all before. John flexed his right hand, feeling the subtle hum of his old neurobrace, a relic from the Terran Recon Wars, barely functional. He looked smaller than the others in the pit, leaner. To the crowd, he was a washed-up relic. But inside his chest beat the calm rhythm of a killer with nothing left to prove, and nothing left to lose. Across the pit, 3 mercenaries emerged from separate gates. One wielded a plasma lance, another, a barbed whip laced with neurotoxins. The last spun twin pulse daggers, showboating for the cameras orbiting above. High in the control chamber, Captain Illyra Vox watched from her throne-like chair, legs crossed, eyes cold. Her voice crackled through the arena's loudspeakers. "This is the best Earth has left," she mocked. "A half-blind memory wrapped in outdated armor?" The crowd roared. Wagers flashed on hollow panels. John didn't move. "Begin," Vox said. The klaxon wailed. The first merc lunged. John dropped to one knee, not in fear, but in calculation. Dust kicked up. His left hand slid to his boot. A flick. A gleam. A compact throwing spike whipped through the air, burying itself in the attacker's throat before the whip carrier even blinked. The merc's body crashed into the sand with a gurgle, twitching. The laughter stopped. The second moved fast, more cautious. She circled John, whip crackling. With a feint to the left, she struck right, but John wasn't there. He had ducked low again, pivoting on his back foot, and with a precise twist of his torso, slammed the butt of his elbow into her ribs. Her breath left her in a ragged wheeze. His follow-up knee to the sternum folded her in half. She didn't get up. The last merc hesitated, pulse daggers flickering in the dim light. His swagger was gone. From the stands, General Tarek of the Galactic Council leaned forward. His silver-blue armor shimmered under the fluorescence, unreadable. But he spoke to no one, only watching. John stared at the last mercenary with his one exposed eye. Calm. Calculated. "You should run," he said flatly. The merc spat and charged. John didn't move. Not until the distance between them shrank to just 4 meters. Then, like a coil unleashed, he exploded upward, catching the attacker's wrist mid-swing and slamming his palm into the man's chin with bone-cracking force. As the body crumpled, John yanked the eye patch loose. The crowd gasped. Beneath it wasn't a hollow socket. It was worse. A sliver of obsidian glass glinted where a human eye should have been, an illegal Terran sniper's lens, banned by intergalactic war codes decades ago. Rumor called it a ghost eye, a device that captured not just sight, but kinetic memory, wind vectors, and sound resonance. It didn't record history. It learned from it. "Now you've done it," Vox whispered under her breath. John turned slowly, lifting his head toward the balcony. "This was never about the show," he said, voice low, but amplified by the arena's sensors. "You invited me here for a public execution. You just forgot who needed burying." The arena fell into stunned silence. John picked up one of the merc's discarded rifles. He turned it in his hand like a familiar tool, then fired one perfect shot upward. The bullet screamed through the air, puncturing the floating camera drone that had been orbiting silently above the crucible. Sparks rained down like fireflies. Silence stretched. Then John said, "Broadcast over." He dropped the rifle. Behind the reinforced glass of the council box, General Tarek spoke for the first time. "That's not a fighter," he murmured. "That's a ghost with unfinished business." Vox stood, face pale. "He wasn't supposed to survive. We gave him no odds." "No," Tarek said grimly. "You gave him a reason." Far below, John replaced the eye patch. Not to hide the lens, but to wait. He had tested their reaction. Now he knew. They were still afraid of Terrans. He smiled, just slightly. Not at the victory, but at the message. The Crucible's infirmary was silent, save for the rhythmic hiss of a ventilation unit and the faint crackle of a flickering wall monitor. John Creed sat on the steel cot, the bandage around his ribs already stained with a slash of dried crimson. A medic droid hovered nearby, chirping diagnostics in clipped binary. John ignored it. His attention was on the wall-mounted feed looping fragments of the arena battle, his battle. Every angle. Every kill. Slowed, analyzed, dissected by algorithms trying to explain how a half-decommissioned Terran had dismantled 3 genetically enhanced mercs in under 90 seconds. But machines couldn't quantify ghosts. "Cut the feed," he said flatly. The monitor blinked out. A soft click echoed as the door slid open. Captain Illyra Vox stepped inside, her crimson uniform spotless, her expression unreadable. Behind her trailed a thin man in silver robes, Council Archivist Valen, tasked with recording historical anomalies. John didn't rise. "Come to congratulate me, Vox?" he asked, voice dry as ash. "I came to ask how you cheated," she replied, arms crossed. Valen cleared his throat. "The Council prefers the term unexpected outcome." John scoffed. "You dragged a Terran into a death match, hoping to humiliate Earth before half the galaxy. Didn't count on Earth still having teeth." Vox's gaze darkened. "That tech in your eye violates 16 interplanetary conventions." John leaned forward. "So do war crimes." Silence stretched. Valen interjected, tapping on his hollow slate. "Captain, the Council wants a follow-up match. Immediate. Controlled variables. More visibility. The broadcast lost revenue when he shot the drone." John stood slowly, each movement deliberate. "You want another show?" "Something more conclusive," Vox said. John's eye narrowed. "Or bloodier." "Preferably both," she answered, and turned on her heel. Valen lingered, staring at the Eyepatch. "They say the ghost lens doesn't just remember targets. It learns their next move." John didn't confirm or deny it. He didn't need to. Hours later, the Crucible's secondary chamber buzzed with anticipation. Unlike the open arena, this one was darker, less spectacle, more execution. No cheering crowds. No betting boards. Only silence. John stood alone in the center, a pulse pistol holstered at his side, though he hadn't touched it yet. Around him, steel shutters lined the walls, each concealing a potential attacker. He closed his eye. He listened. Faint hydraulic pressure hissed, 2 shutters moving in tandem. One to the left, the other behind. John spun, stepped left, drew in one motion. Pfft. The pulse round dropped the first attacker mid-dash. Before the second emerged fully, John was already crouched, sliding beneath a thrown blade. His shoulder met the assassin's ribs with bone-jarring force. They collapsed. Another hiss, 3 more shutters. He was surrounded. They thought numbers mattered. They forgot what the lens recorded. In the control room, Vox watched with growing frustration. "He's not reacting," Valen muttered. "He's anticipating." Vox clenched her jaw. "He's trained beyond instinct. He's remembering patterns. We're feeding him data." "You're teaching him," Valen whispered. On screen, John ducked under a sniper beam and fired a blind shot, killing the shooter through a ventilation grill. Back in the chamber, John exhaled slowly. Sweat traced a line down his spine. He was breathing heavier now. The lens had limits. His body, too. That's when the lights cut out. Total black. No sound. Then a whisper. "You still bleed, Terran?" John didn't reply. Instead, he pulled the eyepatch off. The lens flickered softly. Its range diminished in the dark, but it fed him echoes, steps, breath patterns, pulse hums. Close. He tilted his head. 2 enemies moving in parallel. 2 synchronized. Not mercenaries. Trained killers. The unseen. They struck in unison, one from above, one from the floor vent. John dropped to one knee and fired upward, grazing the ceiling. No contact. He rolled forward as the vent hissed open, narrowly avoiding a blade. He dropped the pistol, drew a knife from his boot. Slashed upward. Metal met flesh. One down. The other dropped from above. John turned, too late, until the lens pulsed. He twisted just enough. The blade grazed his neck, not his artery. John grunted, grabbed the wrist mid-swing, and slammed his forehead into the attacker's face. The eye patch was back in place. He whispered, "You wanted a blind Terran. Now you've got one," and drove the knife into the darkness. In the aftermath, the lights returned. The chamber was littered with bodies. John stood alone, breathing hard, bleeding, unbroken. Above, Vox watched in silence. Valen turned to her. "You made a mistake." Her voice trembled. "I made a legend." John looked directly at the camera, sweat and blood streaking his brow. He raised one finger. Not in victory, but in warning. One soldier was all it took. The medical bay reeked of burnt alloy and antiseptic foam. John sat slumped on the edge of the examination table, skin mottled with bruises and hair matted with sweat. A deep gash traced his collarbone where the unseen blade had nearly ended the fight, and him. The lens beneath his eye patch dimmed, pulsing like a heartbeat. Not injured but tired. Data heavy. A soft chime broke the stillness. The door slid open. "John Creed," said a low, measured voice. "Terran designation, Marksman 11. Confirm?" John didn't move. "Depends who's asking." The man stepped forward, draped in charcoal gray diplomatic robes. His eyes, ice pale, flicked to the monitor behind John, where slow-motion replays of the last match looped silently. He spoke without looking. "I'm Special Envoy Ragos. I work under Counselor Valen, but not for him. I represent interests that don't appear on public channels." John finally glanced up. "Shadow Division. Let me guess, internal containment, Black Ledger projects, and political cleanup." Ragos gave a thin smile. "Close enough." John snorted. "Then you already know the answer?" "I am Marksman 11. Or what's left of him." Ragos circled slowly. "You've made quite the impression. Twice now, you've survived what should have been public executions. You've embarrassed the Crucible, humiliated Captain Vox, and reignited fear in a people that declared your kind obsolete." John tilted his head. "And what is it you want, exactly? A ceasefire? A bribe? Or are you here to put a bullet in me quietly?" Ragos leaned in. "I want to know why you're really here." 10 hours earlier, before the first fight. In a shadowed docking bay beneath the arena, John had stepped off a rust-stained cargo hauler and handed a data chip to a silent Terran operative waiting in the shadows. "Once I'm inside," John had said, voice low, "you broadcast this feed to the Helix Syndicate. They'll know what to do." The operative took the chip and vanished. John had turned, alone again. But not unarmed. Back in the present, John met Ragos' stare. "You think I came to dance for your war games?" "No," Ragos said, finally pacing. "I think you came to be seen. You let them record you. Let them leak your presence. Let them remember the lens." John didn't deny it. "Then the legends were true," Ragos murmured. "The ghost unit survived Echelon." John's knuckles tensed. Ragos pressed. "What happened that day, Creed? You were the only sniper deployed to cover Echelon base. The logs say your team never transmitted after the 3rd hour. No recoveries. No remains. You disappeared." John stood slowly, the room shrinking under the weight of what he was about to reveal. "We didn't vanish," he said. "We were erased." Flashback. 13 years ago. Echelon base, frozen cliffs, iron wind, a signal tower cracked by orbital fire. John lay prone behind a shattered viewport, lens recording. His unit had reported strange energy readings in the outer sectors, Zarnai activity. But command didn't respond. Instead, gunships arrived. Not enemy. Terran. Friendly fire. Vaporized 3 squads before anyone understood. The mission hadn't been sabotage. It had been silence. The Council didn't want a war with the Zarnai. They wanted the truth buried. Only John escaped, half blinded by a detonator, the lens fused to his optic nerve by shrapnel and heat. They labeled it an accident. He knew better. Ragos listened in silence as John finished the story. No black box. No survivors. No record, John said. But I remember. The lens remembers. You're planning to leak the data, Ragos said quietly. John gave a single nod. Not planning. Already did. The envoy stiffened. John continued. Every kill, every shot, every betrayal, it's all in the lens. I came here to ensure the footage was witnessed. The Crucible broadcast gave me the perfect stage. You've endangered the balance, Ragos whispered. No, John corrected. I restored it. An alarm blared suddenly, high-pitched and urgent. Red lights bathed the medical bay. A voice shouted over the comms. Security breach in Sector 7. It's the Helix Syndicate. They've launched a remote uplink to our command grid. Ragos turned to John, furious. You timed this? John's smile was ice-cold. I'm a sniper. Timing is all I have. Outside, explosions rocked the eastern tower. Syndicate agents swarmed the control rooms, overpowering guards. Vox's private servers were breached. The Crucible's archives, the very heart of the Galactic Council's propaganda, were going public. Footage streamed in real time to every major broadcast network. The world was watching. John picked up his coat and strapped the pulse pistol to his thigh. As he reached the doorway, he turned back once. You built this Colosseum to bury legends. But you forgot, legends don't die in the dirt. Ragos said nothing. He knew it was too late. Cliffhanger ending. As John vanished into the smoke-filled corridors, one final message scrolled across every transmission line. Earth never surrendered. It remembered. The Citadel towered above the chaos, a monolithic structure of obsidian alloy and reinforced titanium, symbol of Council authority. Its walls, once symbols of unshakable power, now trembled under the sound of revolt. Fires burned along its lower tiers. Emergency sirens pierced the smog-choked sky. Across the outer balconies, frightened officials fled as gunfire echoed from within. John Creed moved through the smoke like a phantom, his rifle cradled with care, the ghost lens beneath his eyepatch glowing with lethal clarity. His body ached, stitched with wounds barely patched, but his movements remained smooth, calculated. Each corridor he passed was imprinted in the lens, each echo triangulated. He didn't walk blindly. He walked with memory. From a hidden corner, Captain Vox watched his advance through a surveillance terminal, her expression tight. He's headed for the spire, said a subordinate, panicked. If he reaches the broadcast core. He won't, she interrupted. Deploy the Blackwell. All of it. Ma'am, the Blackwell is only cleared for high-risk war zones. She turned slowly, her voice a razor's edge. And what do you think this is now? John reached the Council Hall's central column. The inner sanctum's walls shimmered with active plasma shields. Above, the spire contained the Council's private data cores and broadcast array. That was the heart. The truth would die unless it was sent from there. He placed a hand against the sealed lift shaft. Blocked. Expected that, he muttered. He reached into his coat, pulling a sleek canister, a Terran disruptor charge, banned across most civilized systems. He twisted the core and stepped back. Fwum. The blast didn't just rupture the gate, it tore open a memory. 13 years ago. Echelon base. Gunfire. Screams. His squad pinned under fire from Terran drones. Creed, this is command, fall back. John's voice had been calm. You're shooting at us. Silence. Then, this conversation never happened. Back in the present, John stepped into the lift, smoke curling behind him. His reflection stared back from the metal, scarred, tired, resolute. As the lift rose, he whispered, "Let's finish what you started." The spire's doors opened to a kill zone. Dozens of Blackwell enforcers waited, faceless in matte black exoarmor, weapons raised, HUDs synced. "Creed," the lead barked. "Stand down. Surrender the lens and the footage." John didn't blink. "You can have the lens." Then he lifted the rifle. But he didn't fire it. Instead, he tossed it aside. The enforcers hesitated. From his belt, John unclipped a small, glowing sphere and rolled it across the floor. The enforcers raised weapons. Too late. The EMP burst with a deafening crack, knocking out their optics, HUDs, and comms. John was already moving. In the blindness, he was the only one who could see. The lens burned bright. One by one, he dropped them, strikes surgical, precise. He didn't waste motion. Didn't waste bullets. When the last dropped, John was breathing hard, but alive. The broadcast room was just ahead. Inside, Counselor Valen stood frozen as John entered, smoke trailing behind him. "You can't do this," Valen hissed. "You'll destabilize the entire region." John advanced. "You stabilized it with lies. You'll bring war back to Earth." It never left. He approached the console, inserted the uplink module. Valen raised a weapon, shaking. "Step back." John didn't. He pressed enter. Footage of Echelon's massacre filled every major broadcast channel across the galaxy. Not just the lens's memories, but command logs, cover-up reports, the Terran fleet's betrayal. Undeniable. Irrefutable. Valen fired. The shot struck John in the shoulder. He staggered, growled, turned. Fired once. The counselor dropped. John slumped against the console, clutching his arm. Blood trickled down his sleeve. Sirens wailed. The tower shook. He could barely stand. But the message was out. Outside, across countless systems, the footage played. Worlds paused. Silence gripped them. For the first time in decades, the truth had voice. One line repeated on the stream. "Terrans remember." Hours later, as the fires died down and resistance forces swept the citadel, John sat quietly at the edge of the tower's roof. The sun broke through the smoke, washing the city in pale gold. A ship landed beside him, Helix Syndicate colors. A ramp dropped. Elia Creed, his sister, stepped out. Once presumed dead at Echelon. Now a leader in the resistance. "You did it," she said softly. John exhaled. "They mocked a broken soldier." She smiled. "And he became a legend." John glanced at the eyepatch, now dangling from his fingers. "Let them mock," he murmured. "The lens remembers for all of us."